Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street, a Casper video for you guys today. We haven't discussed this project for a while, so it's definitely worth a quick little recap, any recent news or updates that have come out, just to kind of emphasize really why I'm still holding this particular asset in my portfolio and trying to find some positions of interest of where to accumulate further. Before we go into that more detail, don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel, loads of different projects and topics as always. Don't forget to smash the like button if you're enjoying the videos, and please do subscribe if you haven't done so already and you wish to be a part of our channel moving forward. You're always welcome any day. Let's talk about this then, guys. So first and foremost, well, I think I've been quite late to the party with Casper, to be honest. I think my first intake was either end of last year or into this year, but yeah, there's been so much speculation, like there is with most crypto assets, as to is this kind of asset actually really going to go anywhere. There's a lot of other projects out there that could be argued as better, but some people have a lot of similarities with this in terms of this aspect of the Bitcoin aspect of proof of work. This is one of the very few projects that does so. But in these short decline moments, which we'll go into in the charts a bit later in the video, there is always still a lot of accumulation going on a daily basis. And more recently, we'll just flip to a couple of these different stories. So over the last few days, we've seen an intake. I mean, this I think equates to around about $140,000, something like that. So it's not giant in the grand scheme of things compared to many other assets, but if you can just think for a moment, like when people are saying like, oh, assets are just falling apart, there's nothing in it, people are still throwing a lot of money at this. So there's definitely some aspect of belief in it. Of course, there's always the speculation aspect as well, and these all accumulate to eventually potentially allow the price to return into an upward trajectory. But for now, we're seeing that downward spiral like we're seeing with many assets out there. But those numbers are creeping in still. There's quite an interesting article here from November 18th on AI or A Invest. And they're essentially mentioning here about Casper. Of course, it used direct to cyclic graph, which is one of the main reasons why I'm interested in it. I absolutely love that aspect of blockchain. If you don't know what DAG is, I've got an intro video. Just go and search on my channel. I'm not going into detail right now because I've probably done it about 100 times over the last few years. Nothing has changed in terms of how it operates or anything like that, so it's definitely still relevant, and I've given loads of examples on that video as well. But you can see here over the last few months, these numbers still kick in. So there's definitely, in my mind, an opinion, I suppose, long-term value to this project. People are still waiting for those lower numbers and injecting a lot of money in there, even though they probably know that number is coming down. So a lot of people are definitely DCAing strategically into this project still. And of course, there's always the ongoing topic. Everyone keeps going on about this. Why is it not on all of the major exchanges yet? I'll kind of mention a few points about that actually, because I kind of keep quiet a bit on those kind of things. But in that aspect of not being kind of listed on those other exchanges, I guess there's a few different fundamentals to that. So you've got what they call their fair launch model. So I think this is where essentially they have no pre-mining, there's no team allocations. So because Casper is essentially launched without that pre-mining aspect, or even having tokens aside for the early investors, there's no kind of like listing pools, and a lot of exchanges look for that when they're kicking off a project. They want to see the awareness tactic of that. So many of the major exchanges typically expect that, and they're not offering that. So that's probably one of the main reasons I think why they haven't done it. And then essentially what that does mean for the exchange as well, albeit they're probably quite cash rich these days, it does mean the exchanges must buy the KAS on the market and build the liquidity themselves. It's very rare. I don't even know if they actually do that at all. Just from the experience of having many interviews and discussions with exchanges over the years, I'd be quite surprised if any does that. And it just slows everything down. Albeit a lot of it's automated these days. I think even just from the aspect of money saving and resource power in terms of people, etc., that might take to actually have to do that and monitor that and build it. I don't think they're going to do it because there's too much risk in that aspect. Even though a lot of the assets they hold are risky anyway, but they kind of have it backed up by the projects that they're putting on in those areas. And we've of course got the limited token liquidity. So when we're talking about, let me just find quickly the tokenomics page here, give us a bit more depth for the conversation. Go check out this page yourselves as well, of course, but these are always really fundamental points to make here. So when you've got that emission rate dropping and there's fewer tokens entering that market, the exchanges will tend to see higher risk in those listings. Kind of what we talked about just a minute ago in terms of the listing pools. It's also similar to the liquidity aspect as well. So they'll essentially worry, I guess, about like the insufficient volume or sudden price instability. It's a bit of a difficult one because everyone can probably sit there and point fingers and say there's loads of other projects that could accumulate to. But as I've just mentioned, a lot of the projects kind of back it up with taking on the risk themselves when we're uploading. And then you've got the aspect of the protocol complexity. So with BlockDAG and proof of work, so these are two really huge elements of blockchain, rather than the standard chain elements. The exchanges essentially must run, I guess, like a custom infrastructure. I don't know how that works exactly, but I'm fully aware that that's what they've had to do with some of the other ones on there. It's also another reason why some projects that use DAG, with the exception of HBAR, I think that's on most ones, they have to be out there because of the proof of work. It makes it a bit more difficult. So there's the audit of the wallets, the nodes, to essentially add that further level of security on there. It adds time, resource power. We're kind of on the same narrative really across all these points, to be honest. And the lack of listing incentives in general, I guess, kind of verifies that really. There's no budget or token set aside, so exchanges will essentially see less commercial incentive to put a project like Casper on their exchange. So in terms of the timing and things like that, we've also got, market conditions not great for a while now. So there's like higher altcoin sentiment, right, and volume before listing. So some have added KAS on exchanges in terms of the futures trading, but they're cautious of the spot listings. So I totally understand that. So when you're an investor in KAS, you've got to, in my opinion, just be investing in its appropriateness towards the technology and its capability. It is absolutely speculative still, 100%. And I've said that in previous videos. I'm not going to go gung-ho with it just yet because I've got so many other assets. But I do believe strongly in this project being a really massive opportunity if it gets it right. So you've got all of the, when we're talking about Casper in general, flipping back to really quickly on the abouts, and it's not technically on this page, but I've obviously researched I've done. In the background, you've got the ultra fast block times. You've got the high throughput or throughput. You've got the parallel block processing. You've got more scalable proof of work processing power as well within its design capability. There's no pre-mining. There's no pre-mint. There's no ICOs. So it's one of the few projects that stays true as much as possible. I'm sure there might be some elements, but I think pretty much 99% of it is decentralized. So it's fair, open, it's designed to scale without compromising that security element or decentralization. So there's a lot of people out there like myself that felt like crypto, that's what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to give us another alternative and option. Maybe the regulations and standards on the exchanges now are stopping those kind of things from occurring as well, like those kind of projects. The exception of Bitcoin is just so much value in it, right? From day one. But yes, we've got those elements. We've got whales, if you want to call them that. You're adding significant numbers, really. I mean, 100,000 to me is a lot of money. Some people it might not be. Some people in the grant, if you're comparing to other assets and millions of coming in and out of wallets, fine. But the point being here is that KAS isn't on those major exchanges. It's still, in my opinion, not fully has full awareness to the market and retail investors. So there's a really interesting point to me that they're seeing the trend up in the future and not down. why would they be throwing the money in there unless they just didn't know what they're doing and they just got loads of money and just silly with money, of course. So that price is down, but the technical structure, which we'll go onto the chart in a minute, there's arguably a multi-year bull flag there. Potentially a compression pattern coming in also for that breakout. But really quickly before we go into the charts, I do think we've also got to anticipate the exchanges listing at the appropriate times. I think when we start seeing a bit more of a bull cycle across the market, KAS may be entered in there. And I think their timing will be sufficient as well, in the sense that maybe, just maybe, they would accumulate some form of money in the background to put on exchanges, but maybe they just don't want it on there. It might be just simple as that, and we're just complaining as retail investors because we know the power of it, the opportunity of it. We just can't figure out how it's going to increase in value because it's not on the big exchanges. We think that we have to be on the big exchanges for it to do so. I don't think that's necessarily 100% true for all assets. But let's switch to the chart. I want to try and keep these, I always say this on every video, I think, try and keep the videos short and sweet, but always end up going into like 20-25 minutes, so I do apologize. I'm going to try and do this. Who knows, maybe we can do it before 15 minutes are up, but here we go. Long-term compression zone. We've got momentum indicators that are resetting. What I mean by that is these elements here, they are squeezing. It's such a long process, this. We've had literally, I guess since 2024, August, a very slow trend. If you squeeze it, you can actually see like a really interesting pattern here, but the reality is it's not actually made giant moves here in the last couple of years. If you spread it out, obviously naturally from the shape wise, but my point being here is actually from 18 cents to 3 cents. Yes, that is a big drop for sure, absolutely. But if you look at these indicators on the right side, they are slowly but surely squeezing. This number is squeezing. So we're talking about that wedge. I'll try and draw a wedge to show you what I mean. That'll do. We're talking about that wedge sort of compressing zone. That could be insinuating, based on those indicators on the right hand side as well, that we are resetting. It'll be still maybe a few weeks off, maybe in a month or two, but those volume spikes align with the major whale movements as well in there. So again, you can't really significantly see them, but I think that's what's pulling it into shorter candles here. So if you actually see, I do mine in bar format because I think it's much easier to see the opening and closes. But you can see that yes, we've had downward trend, but it is slowly squeezing. We're not getting the big fluctuations like we used to, and especially the last 2 days. I'm interested to see where we close today, because it could be a reversal at some point in these coming days. So for me, actually, in this next day or two, based on the RSIs down here, as I mentioned in previous videos, I have really good buy points around sort of 40, 42. Because I saw this downward trend here, I was like, oh, okay, let's give it a few days. If it swings back, fine. We're still going to be in a tidy position under or just around 5 cents compared to where we were with KAS in the past. I think there's a big momentum forwards for sure from these lower positions. So for sure, I'll probably do a manual order later today. I'll let you know how that goes in the next video. But yes, support zone in general, I think this is a key accumulation range. I think we can see that in the volumes. And that resistance level. So actually, if we look back, there's not a huge amount of history to go on here. I've drawn this fib level in here simply because we've got the longer time ones, which are matching up with where we are kind of before. We see we broke through that. So this is almost irrelevant now. We're now seeing where we're going below that. So I've taken one of the lowest points from history and one of the most recent high points up here. And this gives us a bit of an indicator as to where we may be going in these next few days. So I'll just pull this one back this way, just line that quickly. You can see we're steady here. So basically, common sense, if we can stabilize here, there's a big chance that we could build up. If we dabble and pinpoint down too much, maybe to around 3.6 or 3.5 cents, there's a likelihood that we may potentially go and retest $3, 3 cents, which we haven't seen since around about September 2023. And that's actually an area that we drew a long time ago to suggest that these are maybe areas that we may be getting towards eventually on the way down. And I said this is probably a big area of my buying positions, of which it has been. So it's kind of nice to see it play out in that way. It's not one of those things where I'm saying I told you so. It's just I don't know. I don't like shilling things. I just go based on data, historic information, and where the market's going. Not just the market, the macro levels as well. What's going on outside crypto is really important just as much as what's going in it. So I definitely think there's a bull flag projection here at some point in the near future. We'll have to see. But that overall, guys, is the Casper update. I think it's under 15 minutes. Just about. So thank you for joining us on this one. We'll keep an eye on KAS. If it does drop below or towards that 3 cents, I'll probably do a YouTube short quickly on it and just mention that we've done this video. We were waiting for these areas as well as a DCA opportunity. But I do think, maybe not financial advice, obviously, but I will maybe be following some of those elements of what some of the whales in inverted commas are doing with KAS and accumulate at these areas. Maybe they know something we don't. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave your comments, as always, about Casper below. Let us know if you're buying, selling, haven't got it, have got it, whatever. Anything KAS related, drop it in there. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.